Hello, everybody. It's Justin, the Catholic State here. So I'm here tonight to answer your questions, anything on the Jewish question. So I don't see anything so far, but yeah, today I'm just a little bit tired. So hopefully it's not that much of a drag. But as soon as I get done answering your questions, I'll probably go to bed. Yeah, just one of those days. So hello everybody. Uh is there anybody viewing? Hello. Let's see. Don't really got much to talk about without questions, but yeah, there's been some interesting things that have happened lately. I don't know if you guys have seen, but let's see, there was that this week that the New York mayor put out that video, the press conference video or whatever, saying that how Netanyahu should be treated as a war criminal, and he's going to treat him as a war criminal if he comes into New York City or whatever. See what else happened this week. There was Ben Shapiro on Twitter responded to Tucker Carlson, saying Tucker Carlson's comment on how Ben Shapiro should go in the Middle East and fight the war himself instead of being a hypocrite trying to send young American people to war for Israel. Got Ben Shapiro to respond saying, calling it goy slop, which was pretty funny. See what happened. In case you don't know, there is a Congress of, what is it? It's a Noahide Congress happening in Israel in November. It's right on All Saints or All Souls Day, one of the two, right there in early November. So yeah, they're the Noahide thing. They're going to be talking about it openly in Israel, which is interesting. And let's see what else. Oh yeah, the Coalition of Catholics Against Anti-Semitism, which is run by Simone Rizkala, who's the same girl that was with the Philos or the Philos Project that me and several other people dealt with. Why are no comments showing up? Are you guys not making any comments, or am I just not seeing them? Maybe it's because I got the free version. Well, I've had the free version. Okay, there's a comment. I was gonna say, like, I've had the free version for a long time. Maybe you guys just don't have any questions tonight. But anyway, what I was saying, like, the Coalition of Catholics Against Anti-Semitism, they're starting to put chapters in colleges now. They're going to start with one in Franciscan University here. Well, actually, in Ohio, yeah. So that's the news this week. Same old people doing the same thing. Okay, I'm seeing chat now, so doesn't look like any questions. Like, best of R8B says hello. Boomer Hernandez, I think your name's Linda, right? Yeah, Linda. Hello, Linda. Thomas Holmes, greetings from California. Greetings from Kentucky. And some people think I live in Ohio because I live in the Cincinnati area, but no, I live in Kentucky, just right over the river. Okay. Awesome. Alrighty. I didn't have much to prepare to talk about, but I'll talk. I'll think of a couple things. Let me think. I was hoping people would start asking questions early because I'm so tired right now. Um, yeah, not much is really happening as far as my life is going. So, other than me being tired all the time, probably because I have severe sleep apnea. Yeah, that's the big thing going in my life right now is just severe sleep apnea. I wake up apparently 70 times an hour. What? So more than once a minute. So that's and like I'm still waiting to get a CPAP machine, but it's like it's taken forever because I had to go through multiples. I had both sleep what are they sleep study tests done on me. One to get my diagnosis, and the second to get my fitting for uh getting for the CPAP. And so now I'm just waiting for uh the sleep app place to call me so I can get a CPAP. So hopefully I'll be getting sleep like normal people soon. But yeah. No, that's fine, Linda. You didn't have to prep for asking questions. But that's why I got this. That's why I'm doing this. Is just because people ask me questions. Um, like because I talk about the Jewish question from a Catholic perspective, and a lot of people are new to this. A lot of people haven't really been exposed to this that much, or if they've been exposed to it, they've been exposed to it from a different perspectives, like racialist perspectives. Mostly. I'm not even going to say the group. The group that was popular in Germany in the 1930s and 40s. So they get it from that perspective, but they don't really get it from the Catholic perspective that much, which is, what my whole channel is about is the theology and the history and stuff like that. So, but I don't know, maybe I've been doing a good job of answering questions in my videos, but I just figured, hey, maybe once a month or so, do a stream where people get on here and ask me questions. But it could be one of those things where we just have a light night tonight. Maybe a lot of people don't want to get on here and ask questions, so that's cool too. That just means I'll get to to bed early. Yeah, I've been like I said, sleepy a lot because of my sleep apnea. Well, wait a few more minutes, see if anybody asks questions. If not, we can just call it a night earlier too. Oh, best of R8B. How do you think they got into the church on such a deep level? I'm a new viewer, so I'm not sure if you have talked about this. Could it be the Moranos from Spain? Okay, so that's a good question, right? There's actually a whole book on this. It's The Plot Against the Church. Here, let me show my website. Plot Against the Church by Maurice Pine is, in case you don't know already, this is my website, christtheking.info. And I have this whole page that I created is the Catholic resources on Adversus Judaeus, or on the Jewish question. And this goes through like different biblical resources, church fathers, medieval resources, church doctors, lots of magisterium here. Like people say there's no magisterium on the Jewish question. That's a bunch of baloney. There's a lot of it. I've barely covered it in my videos. I mean, like I cover the Council of Florence all the time because of the dogma, and like I recently covered, like that reminds me. I know I'm going on a tangent here, but the other day I put out this video on Pope St. Pius V and his papal bull Haberorum Gens. He expelled the Jews, and I only got like 985 views on it. That's just, it's weird. It seems like maybe it's been shadow banned or something. So I'm not sure if people were seeing that, but yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it like flagged something on YouTube. Whatever. I just wanted to bring that up. But anyways, going back to this is my resources here, and going back to your question, plot against. So this was written in 1962 at the beginning, towards the beginning of the Second Vatican Council, especially written against those that were drafted Nostra Aetate. And here, I got it loaded up on my website. It's Maurice Pinay is just a pen name. It's not a real person, but I would recommend you reading this book. Look, it's like over 600 pages long, but it's it basically answers your question. It was written by a bunch of bishops and other priests and other theologians during the beginning of the Second Vatican Council. They promulgated it there to all the bishops to try to get them to vote against Nostra Aetate. But it essentially talks about how the Jews infiltrated the church, right? That's why it's called the plot against the church. And it wasn't like something to your to what you're asking here. It wasn't something like just Marranos in Spain. No, actually, they call it the fifth column, right, in this book, the fifth column, and it's basically saying that there's this whole group of Jews, of people that hate the church, that have infiltrated the church like centuries and centuries ago, maybe even over a millennia ago, and have like assumed Catholic names and assumed Catholic identity. They're crypto Jews, right? And they've just been working with the Freemasons and the communists and all these other groups to infiltrate the church and destroy it from within by these enemies of Christ, call themselves Catholic, but they're actually Jews, right? So this whole book goes into it. So it's your question is good, but like how they've done it on such a deep level is that they haven't just started doing it. This isn't something that they've just been doing the past century. This is something that's been going on for centuries. It's been going on for maybe over a millennia, is that they've infiltrated the church from inside. And that's why they've finally been able to cause all this confusion inside the church. But they've done different things throughout the centuries to expose themselves. Like, I mean, the big thing is all the heresies, right? Because the first heresy in the church were the Judaizers, right? And that's even in the Bible. That's what the Council of Jerusalem in Acts 15 is about, when St. Paul and St. Barnabas go to the other apostles in Jerusalem and say, look, we got to talk about this. These Jews are trying to make all these Gentile converts. They're trying to circumcise them and essentially make them into Jews, but that's not what we're doing here. We're trying to make them into Christians, not Jews, right? So the old heresy is the last heresy, pretty much, and it's been every time there's a heresy, there's always Jews that are kind of, even if they're not directly part of it, they're indirectly a part of it, right? Like, even if you look at Arianism in the 4th century, Arius, there's some people that say he might have been a Jew. I don't know, but I couldn't find any reliable source on that. But at the very least, his whole theology was essentially discrediting the divinity of Christ, right? That's what Arianism is. So pretty much all heresies, or maybe not all, maybe I'm being hyperbolic here, but most heresies come from Jewish thinking, so to speak, right? So yeah, I mean, and this whole book goes in, and it's free. You can, like, again, I just showed you the link on my website, so I'd suggest reading it. Another good resource is The Jewish Revolutionary Spirit by Dr. E. Michael Jones. I mean, some people, like a lot of trads don't like Dr. E. Michael Jones these days because of some of the things he says against traditionalism, but he really is an expert when it comes to the Jewish question from a Catholic perspective. And the Jewish Revolutionary Spirit, that book, I got the 3-volume version. It's just, he just goes into the history of how these Jews have essentially worked with the Protestant reformers, proto-Protestants. And I just started touching on that on my videos this week, yesterday with my video on Martin Luther and Henry VIII. I'm going to have to do a whole video on John Calvin, because John Calvin is so bad that he needs a whole video because he was so Judaized. And then you've got, we got many others. Like I've already touched on dispensationalism, but yeah, heresy whether it's within the church or people that call themselves Christians outside, it's always Jews. So, how do they get to the church on such a deep level? I mean, it's diabolical. They plan and plot and go undercover like as spies within the church for like centuries. That's how they do it. And could it be the Marranos from Spain? Some of them are, but like there's not every Jewish, like, and I make this claim, and this is why I'm not a racialist when it comes to the Jewish question, because there's because there's tons of Jewish converts that are not bad converts. They're not crypto Jews. Like even speaking of Spain, 3 that I can think of are saints, right? You got Saint John of Avila, Saint Teresa of Avila, and Saint John of the Cross. All 3 of them have Jewish ancestry, right? All 3, like their parent, like I think parents or grandparents are Jewish. So, and all 3 of them are considered, great saints of the church. So you can't just say, well, if somebody's a convert in Spain, if they're a Jew, they're a bad egg. Well, no, that's not true. But some of them were Marranos, some of them were crypto Jews. So, yeah, it's one of those things. And this is why it's so difficult with the Jewish question, how you treat converts, because you're supposed to give people Vidal, and Catholic teaching is you're supposed to give people the benefit of Vidal. That's what the saints say. But at the same time, some of these people are falsely converting just so they can infiltrate the church and destroy it from within. So how do you know who's which? It used to be the case that back in the day, back around this time, if someone was a first generation Jewish convert, like they were not allowed to have any power or influence in the church, and they weren't allowed to have any power or influence second generation. It was only by the third generation that they were. So like, even if you look at like Saint Teresa of Avila, she was a third generation, right? Because her grandparents converted. But I mean, still, that's not a guarantee, because you could have, again, with this fifth column situation that the plot against the church goes into, you can have these people plotting to tear the church apart from within by teaching their grandchildren to do it instead of doing it themselves. So it's pretty diabolical. Going to Brian Ader just got here. You're very, very knowledgeable about scripture and church history. Where did you get your education? See, that's the thing. I'm self-taught. I'm not there is no school for people in the Jewish question. So sorry, but you're not going to be able to get an education on the Jewish question by going to school anywhere. They're not going to teach this in Obviously, they don't teach it in theology school. Look at all these theologians. I mean, I've even, in several of my videos, have shown these theologians that have PhDs did not know. I've proven that they don't know what they're talking about on the Jewish question, right? Multiple theologians like Dr. Andre Villeneuve and Dr. Feingold and several others. It's like they might have PhDs in theology, but they clearly don't know what they're talking about regarding the Jewish question from the Catholic perspective, right? So the only way you can actually be an expert in this is you have to be self-taught, right? So going back to my website, you see all these resources I have on my website, and I'm scrolling through them quickly. Modern, early modern, middle. I compiled all of that myself, right? So nobody taught me. I'm self-taught. I guess the technical term for this is autodidactic, right? I've always been autodidactic. I've always taught myself things, but I'm very studious, and I just read, and I know how to research and find things and read things, and it is a gift. I know a lot of people don't have that. And so most people are not autodidactic. Most people do not self-teach themselves, which is why they need a teacher, right? And that's why I've come into this role to be a teacher. So thank you for letting me be your teacher. But yeah, I mean, I think I get a lot of grace from God and stuff. I mean, really, that's where it comes from. The great God gave me these gifts and graces to be able to do this. But as to where I got my education, I just got a bachelor's degree in philosophy from the University of Cincinnati. So I'm college educated, but there's no formal education I got that made me qualified for this. And there's no formal education that I'm aware of that you can get for anything like this. Like, this is considered politically incorrect, and no institution, they're going to lose all their funding if they try to and then that's the thing. That's why, like, these schools like Benedictine College and the Franciscan University are doing all these politically allowing all this coalition of Catholics against anti-Semitism garbage, is because they get their funding from the government, right? The 501c thing means that you have to comply to what the government says regarding certain things. So regarding discrimination against, race and religion and other protected classes, right? So that's why they do this. So they're not going to teach the Jewish question in these colleges right now. Good evening, Anno Domine. Best of R8B. Thank you very much for the book recommendations. You're welcome. I am very interested in the video about Calvinists, since I am a Calvinist myself. Well, I would recommend you not be a Calvinist, just because Calvin was a Judaizer, and hopefully if you watch my video, you'll agree and become Catholic. I mean, Calvin wasn't wrong about everything. I mean, his theology is basically taking St. Augustine's theology and going to extremes and butchering it, especially when it comes to things like predestination. With something like predestination, I mean, people get this wrong all the time, that Catholics don't think there's many badly catechized Catholics out there that don't think us Catholics believe in predestination, but we do. It's like, you have to, if you believe that God is omnipotent and omniscient, you have to believe in predestination, because if he knows everything, he knows whether people are saved or not before they're even born. So the predestination has to be a thing. Just logically flows from the fact that omniscience is a thing. But God willing and gleefully creating people to be damned, no, that's crazy. Okay, bad interpretation of Romans 9 through 11, that there will be a mass conversion of Jews as part of that infiltration. No, that's Pete says that it's a bad interpretation of Romans 9 through 11 that there will be a mass conversion of Jews as part of that infiltration. On all due respect, you need to watch this video of mine right here called All Israel Shall Be Saved. So we've got, and like here, in case you don't know, I put all my sources in my videos. So here we got Romans 11, of course, and then there's other verses too, like in Matthew, Acts, but it's literally the consensus of the church fathers. And if it's a consensus of the church fathers, that means we must hold it as true as Catholics per Trent, the Councils of Trent and Vatican I. But it's the consensus of the church fathers, including, but not limited to, Saints Justin Martyr, St. John Chrysostom, St. Augustine, St. Ambrose, St. Cyril of Alexandria, St. Prosper of Aquitaine, St. Jerome, St. Thomas Aquinas, and then Lapide, Haydock. It is, and it's even in the modern catechism, whether or not you care about that. Most people that watch my videos are trads and don't, but it's there. But it is Catholic teaching that the Jews will convert at the end of time, and this is not something to debate. So I'm sorry if you don't like it, but it's not up for debate. The Jews will convert at the end of the time. Now, before they convert at the end of the time, they will accept the Antichrist. That is also the consensus of the fathers. Per John 5:43 and 2 Thessalonians 2, the man of lawlessness who will roll from the temple of God, whom the Jews will accept because they reject Christ. That is the Antichrist, right? And that is, again, the consensus of the church fathers is that the Antichrist with a capital A will be a Jew, and they will accept him, and then after that they will convert, right? And that's the problem with a lot of these new Judaizers. I just sent a big email yesterday to Simone Riscala, the one who heads the Coalition of Catholics Against Anti-Semitism, because their whole message behind of what they're doing is that the Jews will convert at the end of time, and they will. That is true, but they neglect to say that before then they are the enemies of us according to the gospel, right? Of ours according to the gospel, and they are also going to bring forth the Antichrist before they convert. And like that's a pretty big omission that these people have. So, but both are true. And this is something that we got to get better at. We can't just go to one extreme or the other. And that's where heresy happens. When some heresy is oftentimes somebody says something wrong that's a heresy, and people reject that, rightfully so, but then they go in the exact opposite direction too far and commit another heresy that's a reaction to the original heresy. So don't do that. Yes. Are the Jews our enemies? Yes. Did they kill Christ? Yes. Are they going to bring forth the Antichrist? Yes. Are they not going to convert at the end of the time? No, they are. The church says this. Don't distance yourself from church teaching and damn yourself just because so many people are rejecting these other true things. Klein Fours. Hey, I love the autodidacts. What's your take on the SSPX situation? I knew somebody was going to ask me about this. I should have just led in with this since I didn't really have much to say at the beginning anyways, but you're not going to like my answer, but I'm pretty indifferent to it, to be honest. I think it's sad and unfortunate, but I think I've made myself clear many times. I don't go to the SSPX. I've only went to an SSPX chapel once. That was because my friend was getting married there, and it's only there's one 20 minutes from my house. It was a beautiful chapel, with everything in there, and even the mass itself was beautiful wedding mass. I didn't receive communion because, again, like I don't agree with the SSPX position. But I was there to support my friend, and I love my friend and, you know, his wife. And I have other people, friends and people I know online that are SSPX attendees, and I love them and I sympathize with them. But at the same time, I don't, you know, they recognize that Pope Leo the 14th the Pope, and then he said, no, don't consecrate these bishops or I'm going to excommunicate you. They consecrated the bishops, so he excommunicated them. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right? Now I know there's I've seen a lot of videos. I haven't watched any of them. I don't care to. That, you know, a lot of videos of people that attend SSPX and saying things like, well, the excommunications aren't real, they're not lawful, blah, blah, blah. You know, I don't know. I'm not a canon lawyer. I don't know. And again, I don't have a dog in the fight. It's just not really under my area of expertise. But again, I think it's unfortunate and sad. I think really on the other, the criticism of Pope Leo the 14th is valid, that, you know, he's fine with meeting with all these heretics all the time, like, you know, people like Father James Martin and, like, you know, the lady that thinks she's the Archbishop of Canterbury and all these other people, but he doesn't have time to sit down with the leadership of the SSPX. I think that says a lot too, but it's not my call to make, right? It's I don't have a dog in the fight, sorry, but sympathies and love go out to the people that attend the SSPX, but, you know, it's just really not my thing. Oh, you're welcome, Brian Air. Brian Air says thanks. You're welcome. Bill 53. Do you ever comment on the secular state of Israel 48 and its influence on both the U.S. and the Vatican? Yeah, all the time. I've got several videos on my channel. I don't know what you mean by comment on the secular state of Israel. Do you mean, do I make political commentary? If that's no, like I'm not really interested in politics. I'm more into theology, obviously. In case you can't tell by watching my videos. I mean, there's tons. If you want to see some political commentary on the state of Israel, secular state of Israel, and, you know, just, I don't know, go watch Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens or somebody. Like, they do it. They're political commentators and they do it better than me anyway. So just watch them. I guess the way I see it is everybody has a role to play. God gave me certain graces to play the certain part. And going back to what I was talking about earlier, it seems to me that God has given me graces to do what I'm doing now, which is to educate people on the Jewish question from a Catholic perspective, really focusing on theology, some history too, but mostly theology. I think that's really my lane, right? And, you know, when I came into the church, what I heard over and over regarding humility is knowing your lane, knowing your place and taking it, right? So if I started talking about things that I don't know anything about, that I'm not good at talking about, then I'm just going to come off as an idiot, right? And I'm not going to have the graces to do it. So I'm only going to be, I feel that I'm only going to be given the graces to talk about things that, you know, that God wants me to talk about, that he's put me out here to talk about. So I'm just not really interested in talking about things that God hasn't really directed me to talk about, I guess, if that makes any sense. But yeah, do I talk about the state of Israel? Yeah, I mean, it comes up quite a bit. Like, I got quite a few videos. You know, if you just go to my channel, here, this is my channel from my side, the studio side. But if you look, you could probably do a search, do it Israel, like, see, there's well, that's not, maybe Zionism. Yeah, see, like, why Catholics reject Zionism, the Catholic Church and Zionism. Yeah, so I've got a few videos on this, but nothing that's just political, and it's political. And well, I take that back. Maybe I have some stuff. Do I have some stuff on Rumble? Let me look real quick. Here's my Rumble channel. Right here. Here's I have like this whole series called the Stand Up to Jewish Hate series. If you go to my Rumble channel and go to playlists, and it's got some. This is where I talk a lot about, how the Jews are control of, behind certain things. So this one, maybe the Jews control politics one, neoconservatism is Jewish, libertarian is Jewish. So yeah, maybe on these videos where I talk about like politics, how certain political things are Jewish. But yeah, in general, I mostly just stay on the theology side. McClear Eyes, Orthodox here. Blessings to you. Well, blessings to you too, Mr. Clear Eyes. Clind Fours again. To tag on the question above, what would you point to for the modern example of the extant Sanhedrin? Or said another way, what is the highest Jewish authority today? And is it the Knesset, Isaiah Org? That's a great question. I don't know what the highest Jewish authority is. I don't think there's a visible centralized Jewish authority at all. I mean, maybe there are some behind the scenes, but not a visible authority. There is a nascent Sanhedrin, like I was just saying, that they're going to have a Noahide Congress in 2026. Let's see. Let me show this tab. So this is NoahideWorldCenter.org, the first International Congress of Noahides. Yeah, but there's no centralized. To my knowledge, there's no centralized like Jewish power. If there was a if and when there is a centralized Jewish power, that'll basically be like the Antichrist. That's really, if you were to ask me the main point of my channel, like, people ask me to say this all the time. They think, oh, you're just an anti-Semite. You just hate Jews. That's why you focus on this. But really, if you were to want to know the purpose of my channel, it's really to educate people so you're prepared for the Antichrist, right? Because the Antichrist is going to be Jewish, and I want you to have all this theological education here and understanding, so you understand when the Antichrist comes, you can say, yes, that's the Antichrist. You're not going to be one of the deceived that 2 Thessalonians 2 talks about, right? You're going to know that the Antichrist is the Antichrist, because when you see a Jewish man or Jewish organization that really is the modern example of the extant Sanhedrin, well, that's a bad sign. And I mean, that's a big part of the Noahide laws too. Okay, let me bring that up, because you might not even, I don't know how much, like, I've made videos on this, but I don't know how much, if you've watched these videos. So one of the Noahide laws is the established courts of justice, right? AKA Sanhedrin, right? That's what the once these people get into full visible power, right? They're going to establish a Sanhedrin. It's going to be like, think of it like the Supreme Court of the world, right? That's essentially what it's going to be. And yeah, that will be the extant Sanhedrin. It will be visible. It will not be hidden from us at all. And the Antichrist will essentially be the head of the world. He'll be the king or emperor of the world, the Jewish emperor, and the Sanhedrin will be his essentially his court, his Supreme Court of the world. So, but we don't have that right now. Obviously, I mean, is the synagogue pulling the strings from behind the strings, and even somewhat visibly now? Yeah. Is the state of Israel? Are they essentially controlling the United States empire almost visibly now? Yeah. I mean, people are saying that, like how recently they said they're going to try to merge the U.S. armies with the Israeli armies, right? Like people can see what's going on. So yeah, they're making it more visible. But is there an extant Sanhedrin or a visible high Jewish authority that is like the authority of authorities? No. But when that happens, the Antichrist is coming soon, because the Antichrist will be the highest of the highest Jewish authorities. Hopefully that answers some of your question. Hello, CB 7841. Clinton Force again. Do you personally attend Novus Ordo, FSSP, SSPX? You know what? I don't attend FSSP or SSPX at all. Well, I haven't. I've been to an FSSP a couple times, but they're all like 40. The closest ones are like 40 minutes away from me or whatever. SSPX, no, like I said, I only went once, just for my friend's wedding. Novus Ordo, like for me, like we got a diocesan Latin Mass and Novus Ordos around here. And to be honest, and I'm going to say this, it's going to take people off. I don't think there's anything wrong with attending a Novus Ordo, like as long as there's no, like, I've been to several different Novus Ordos, and I've never been to a clown mass before or any mass of liturgical dancing. The worst I have seen is like bad homilies, right? Or things like people just like walking up and getting the Eucharist and just kind of the casual reception of the Eucharist bothers me. And then like, bad music, like bad boomer music. Like it sounds like Simon and Garfunkel, both Jews, by the way, Simon and Garfunkel, but trying to be Catholic. Like I hate that. And then like, bad harmonies. But I've never seen anything where like in a Novus Ordo where I was really like walked away and it was like, whoa, okay. One time I attended a Novus Ordo where it was sacrilegious, but I knew it was that going in. It was a few years ago when my bishop, the Bishop Iffert of the Diocese of Kentucky, he announced he was going to do this. He was celebrating a mass in support of this sodomite organization called what is it? It's like, yeah, it's I forget what it's called, but it's one of the sodomite organizations, the gays, the pro-gay marriage and everything, and he celebrated a mass for it, and we protested it out in front. But I actually went to the mass itself undercover, and I had like a hidden camera, and then we posted a video afterwards of me asking him questions and trying to get him to essentially give bad theological answers. But yeah, anyways, yeah, that was the only one where only mass Novus Ordo mass where I've ever been to where I was just like, man, this is just sacrilegious. But yeah, I mean, Novus Ordo, like I know I'm gonna take off a lot of trads, but I don't think it's I think it's valid. Like I just said in my recent video, like, yeah, they had the offertory is Jewish, comes from a Jewish barakot, but it's still valid because the consecration itself is valid. And I've heard the Sedevacantist arguments on what they don't think it's valid. I just don't think they're good arguments. Now, for the most part, what I've attended the past 8 years is a diocesan Latin Mass. That was what I was brought into. That was my home parish or whatever. So, yeah, I probably didn't give you the answer you wanted. I know people want to hear how trad I am, but like, look, I'm just being honest. I don't. The longer I'm Catholic, the less inclined I am. Like, I'm just going to go out and say it. The more Catholic, the more I've been doing this, the less I sympathize with the traditionalist movement. I'll say that. As far as tradition, I love tradition. But when I think of tradition, what I think of is the rule of St. Vincent Lorenz, which is that as a Catholic, I must believe what all Christians have always believed at all times in all places. That to me is traditional, right? Like, it goes along with the anathema on the Second Vatican or the Second Nicene Council, which is if anybody doesn't believe in all the traditions, whether either written or unwritten, let him be an anathema, right? That to me is traditional. And the big thing that has pushed me away from the traditionalist movement is the fact that I know so many quote unquote traditionalists, and both of my parish, the Latin Mass parish, and in online, real life, whatever, that they're all about going to the Latin Mass. They're all about the aesthetics, they're smoking their pipe, wearing their tweed jacket and whatever. But if you talk to them about the Jewish question, they act like it's not important, or even worse, they're straight up material heretics, like denying that the Jews killed Christ, denying that the Jews are our enemies, denying that the new covenant superseded the old covenant, right? Denying that the Antichrist will be a Jew, right? So the material, they might call themselves trads, but they're material heretics. So, like, they're the definition of traditionalism by a lot of these people in the traditionalist movements is not what I would call traditional, just because it doesn't meet the rule of St. Vincent Lorenz or the Second Council of Nicaea or anything. It's like, it's all about, it seems to be more about aesthetics than it does about believing what the Catholics have always believed. So yeah. Mr. Kalayman, maybe a published book of quotes of the church teachings about the Jews and Judaism from the New Testament to 1958. Are you saying that I should publish a book? I mean, I have considered writing a book. They said haste is coming. Okay. Clinton Fours. Hal, could you flesh out more? Why don't you support the position? The SSPX? Again, I don't see why I should support it. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, they believe again, I don't hate the SSPX or I don't have any problem with them in general, but it's, if you believe someone's the Pope, but then you just say, well, he's the Pope, but I'm just going to disobey him on anything I don't like, then what the heck's the purpose of believing he's the Pope? I don't get that. See, my whole thing is, and I talk about this on the Dr. Deep State's channel a lot with him and John Carter. But my thing is this: it's like I believe that the visible church still is the Bark of Peter, right? And regarding the sacraments, I know, like, I'm gonna get pushback on this. I don't really care. Sedevacantists believe that the sacraments in the visible church aren't even valid, right? They don't believe the consecrations are valid, and so thus the Eucharist isn't valid, and any other sacraments that flow from that are valid, right? I don't agree. I just don't. So most of it is experiential. Like, my wife has attended a Novus Ordo Mass where she actually, and she's Orthodox, she's as Orthodox in her beliefs as I am or anybody I know. Like, she believes in the Jewish question like I do, right? Like, she believes all the stuff I talk about, what she believes, what Catholics have always believed, right? But she's attended a Novus Ordo Mass where she's her and her sister actually experienced seeing a Eucharistic miracle at a Novus Ordo Mass, right? One time, years back, I committed a mortal sin. Sorry, sorry, God, right? But that was the thing. I wanted to go confession, right? And there wasn't any Latin Mass parishes around, so I went to a Novus Ordo confession, and it was a Novus Ordo priest, and it wasn't even like in a confessional. It was just in a room, so I sat with them face to face, and I confessed my sins, and afterwards, I felt the grace of God coming back down upon me, right? I did. So, I mean, I don't. And speaking of that, the grace is, I will say this, a lot of pushback a lot of Sedevacantists or SSPXers, will attack the position that I'm in, that's which is being a part of the visible church and not being a part of, not really caring about the traditionalist movement anymore. And I will say, here's the thing. If you look at the people online talking about the Jewish question, like me, Dr. Deep State, of Dr. E. Michael Jones, most of us, the vast majority of us, are part of what the Sedevacantists call the Novus Ordo counterchurch, Whore of Babylon counterchurch, right? And here's my argument from that. If I think it's rather obvious, but to do what I'm doing requires grace. You have to be given grace from God to do what people like us are doing. Grace builds on nature, right? You have to be naturally brave, which God gives you that gift anyways. But it has to be kind of amplified by grace, right? How would I be given the grace? How would me and Dr. Deep State and all these people that talk about the Jewish question openly be given the grace to do this if our sacraments weren't valid? I mean, I don't understand the logic. And I look at my comment section and I realize that many of the people in my comment section are like SSPX attendees or Sedevacantists and stuff like that. And again, I'm no hatred or malice towards you, but a lot of you think that, that I go to I'm part of the Novus Ordo counter church, and that the sacraments that I'm given are invalid. So my question to you is then, how the heck do I have the graces to do what I'm doing? It's certainly not natural what I'm doing. I can tell you that. Like, I'm a 40-year-old man. I have a wife and a 3-year-old daughter now. I have a full-time job. And I was just saying at the beginning of this program tonight that I have tons of chronic ailments, and one of them is sleep apnea, where I only have severe sleep apnea, where I wake up 70 times a night. So how the heck do I get the energy to put out 5 episodes on my channel a week? Where the heck do I get the time and energy to do that? The only thing I can say is it's the grace of God. And if I'm in the wrong church and I'm not giving the graces from the sacraments, how do you explain this? I'll leave it at that. Okay, Clint Force. Look, man, you're trying to. And this is my problem with like some Sedevacantists SSPX. They always want to draw you into what they're doing, right? It's never like, it's just blah 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 blah. Like, now I'm reading your comments, man, and it's all, you're trying to draw me into. You're not even really interested in where I'm coming from anymore. You're just trying to draw me into where you're at, right? It's almost a recruitment, right? And that's what I've noticed about these people is they just try to recruit you instead of listening to what you have to say when it comes to your own experiences. So yeah, I have looked into what effects they have on the mass clinphores. I actually made a video about it the other day, in case you didn't watch it. Here, let me show it to you again. See this? The Jewish hidden prayer hidden inside your Novus Ordo Mass. I've made a video on it. I know I've made it a video on Nostra Aetate. See, video on Nostra Aetate. I also have, check this out, a 60-page academic thesis on Nostra Aetate. So to answer your questions, have I looked into this? Yes, I have. Yes, I have. You want to engage in my research, feel free to engage in my research. But don't come and ask me if I've looked into these things. I have looked into these things, and I'm saying I don't find your argument persuasive. I do not find the SSPX argument persuasive. I do not find the Sedevacantist argument persuasive. I've looked into these things, and I don't think they're good arguments. Okay. Pope Leo did meet with Bad Bunny. Good to see you live, brother. Theo only one Clyde. Oh, thank you. Bill, thanks for a response. I will check them out. You're welcome. Straught, thanks for your work, sir. Oh my gosh, Clint Fours, you're taking over my chat. Like, look, I tried to politely say I don't believe in the SSPX, and see, this is why a lot of people aren't like, I try to be sympathetic, but this is why a lot of people aren't sympathetic, because when somebody says, look, it's not my thing, I don't really have a thing to say, instead of being like, oh, okay, cool, well, let's agree to disagree, let's be friends, it's like you get triggered, man. You get triggered. You're just like, yeah, but you don't believe this, you don't. No, I just yeah, just settle down, man. People, thanks for your work, sir. Strat says you're welcome. Bill says thanks for the response. I refer to the modern state of Israel 48 to differentiate from the Old Testament Israel. Okay, yeah, that's fine, Bill. I usually call it the state of Israel or the state of false Israel, the 1948 state of Israel. Okay. Why would I attend the gay mass? Bill says, well, like I said, to expose my bishop. That's why I attended. And the mass itself wasn't gay. It was just a normal mass, but what it was being celebrated for was what made it sacrilegious, right? And I didn't receive communion either, because it's like I just felt uncomfortable trying to receive communion at a mass that I believe was sacrilegious. Okay. I'm just going to ignore Clinton Fours. It's like he asked that SSPX question. I guess me saying that I'm not an attendee triggered him or something. I'm sorry. I'm just being honest, right? EMJ said the trad movement, CB7841, EMJ said the trad movement is a way to avoid JQ. Yeah, he did. See, here's the thing. Like I said, I've been going, like, my Latin Mass parish, that I got brought into the church. Like I drank the trad Kool-Aid. So let me just make this clear. I drank the trad Kool-Aid. So what Clint Fours is putting in the chat, like, I know all this stuff. What caused me to be kind of move away from the trad movement is the Jewish question, right? Because these people, like, they want to make, like, the liturgy and the aesthetic, all these aesthetics, to be the most important thing. And I don't agree with that. I think the Jewish question is more important, because this is the most important question of our times, because this is where, and like the fruits of Vatican II, like, again, I agree with, like, what a lot of people in the traditionalist movement actually say on a lot of things. Like the fruits of Vatican II are horrible, like the religious indifferentism. I mean, I've said this multiple times and I'll say it again. It's awful. All the lack of catechesis and the heresy in the church, it's terrible. But, the solution is we have to make things rightly ordered, right? And liturgy is important, right? Lex orandi, lex credendi. How you pray is what you believe, or how you practice the faith is what you believe, right? But what I've seen from being at a Latin Mass parish for 8 years or whatever is that a lot of people, like, they'll walk the walk, and there's a lot of good people that go to the parish, the trad parish, but when it comes to the Jewish question, it's like, it's uncomfortable. They want to stay away from it. They want to pretend like it's not a part of tradition, and it's dangerous because what is happening in geopolitics right now is the movement towards bringing forth the Antichrist. So anybody that's wants to is kind of going like this, with blinders on, is you're going to be led like sheep to a slaughter, man. It's going to be horrible. Okay. Dan Derrigill. Eucharistic miracles have happened many times in the Novus Ordo. I was baptized in the Novus Ordo and went to SSPX for a couple years ago. I appreciate many things in the Latin Mass. Yeah, that's how I see it. Like, I love the Latin Mass. It's the Mass of the Saints, the Mass of the Ages. It's great. And it's very reverent. I mean, one good thing about going to a Latin Mass is wherever there's a Latin Mass, if you go in and attend it, you can almost always know that it's going to be reverent. The only exception could be the homily, depending on who's giving a homily. And the thing is, with me, I've experienced at a Latin Mass that I went, the Latin Mass parish that I go to, I've experienced homilies that are like, that had me go like this. One of the homilies I'm thinking of is where the pastor denied that the Jews killed Christ. Now, like, this was when my Catholic Action Group was having Michael Jones, sponsoring Michael Jones come into town, and he found out about it. But he denied that the Jews killed Christ, which is, I mean, if that's not heresy, that's at the very least that's proximate to heresy, because it says like 14 times, I think I counted in the New Testament, that the Jews killed Christ. Most of them are from St. Peter himself. Like, he says it twice in Acts 2, once in Acts 3, once in Acts 4, and once in Acts 5. He says it 5 times. And to the huge crowds of Jews, he's saying that you Jews killed Christ. So it's like, when somebody says that the Jews didn't kill Christ, that's proximate to heresy, right? It's clear in Scripture. And our first Pope, St. Peter, said it 5 times himself. Exorcists can attest to the validity of the post-Vatican II Church, Anno Domini. Yeah, I agree. I mean, even Father Ripperger, he's probably the most famous online exorcist now. I mean, he never, he's a Latin Mass guy, obviously, but he never says that the Novus Ordo is invalid. Now, I mean, he criticizes parts of it, just like I did the other day, where I criticized the offertory. And like a lot of people in the chat the other day thought my criticism of the offertory was me taking a set of a Vacantis position or an SSPX position. And I was like, but I made it clear at the end of the video, if you watch it all the way through. Sorry. I made it clear that that I believe that the Novus Ordo Mass is reverent, and I've been to some really reverent Novus Ordo Masses too, where like ad orientem, like all the smoke and all the incense and everything you get from a most, or not everything, many of the things you get from the Latin Mass. See, you're not going to get everything by definition, just because there was a decent amount cut out of the Latin Mass when they created the Novus Ordo, when Annibale Bugnini and his little what is it? Not concilium, something like that. That his council committed the Novus Ordo. Yeah, I believe Jesus Christ is present in the Novus Ordo Mass. Like, I do a sign of a cross whenever I go past the Novus Ordo Church. He's present, believe it or not. I believe he's present in the Eastern Orthodox churches too. Like, we have one here in Cincinnati, a Greek Orthodox. He's, I do a sign of a cross. Well, I don't do a sign of a cross, but I do acknowledge he's present there, right? Because he is. I mean, they are the Eastern Orthodox. They're valid. Their consecrations and their holy orders are valid. It's just they've been in schism with us for 1,000 years now, but they're still valid, and the Eucharist they consecrate is still a valid Eucharist. It's just that they're in schism. Warnings from Beyond say Vatican II is bad. I don't know who Warnings from Beyond is. Boomer Hernandez Olinda says, I have friends in Novus Ordo, the Latin Mass, and SSPX. They're all family to me. That's how I see it. Like, I live in Cincinnati, where we have people that we have Novus Ordo parishes, Latin Mass parishes. We have a diocesan Latin Mass on both sides of the river. We have SSPX chapel here. We have the SSPV chapel under Father Jenkins here. There's the Sedevacantis chapel that Father Cicada used to be over. We have a CMRI. So, like, I'm cool with everybody, just as long as, like, people are cool with me. But, like, as you can see in the chat, like, people will ask me my position, and I'll just be honest, and I'm not even being a jerk about it. I'm just saying, well, this is what I think, and then they'll just blow up at me. SSP from the SSPX, like this Clin 4s, or I think he tried to correct me, the Clin 4s or whatever in my chat, just try to correct me or just blow up at me. And I'm like, look, man, if you're SSPX, you're cool to, like, watch my videos and comment on my videos, but I'm not really interested in the SSPX position. I've looked into it. It doesn't make sense to me. I looked into all these positions. Look, here, let me see if I can find it. Hold on. I got a big document I created on Sedevacantism and all the positions. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, let me show you this. Find it. Okay. So here's an email I sent to a couple guys that I know, a couple friends, and see. And I didn't. I will say this: I didn't write it myself. I basically used some AIs, but I did. It was kind of a hybrid. It was me and AIs, but it was like I used some AIs that I pay for that are more advanced, and then I used some of my own research and the positions themselves, and then I came up with, like, this analysis, right, based on and with the AI I had it search, like, everything on the internet that has been said by all the sides, right, and it basically gave a summary of all the positions, like the mainstream conciliar Catholicism, like, the position I hold, the recognize resist position, the SSPX position, right? Sedevacantism, Sedeprivationism, conclavism, and then it just basically went through all of it logically, right? Yeah, you can see I went down far enough. You can see Doug, Dr. Haugen was one of the people I sent it to, but it went through all these um, positions logically, right? And I wanted the AI to do this because, see, here the thing is, with us humans, we actually got skin in the game because our soul is at stake, right? With AI, it doesn't have any skin in the game. It doesn't have a soul. It's just a LOM. It's just language. It's a language logical model. That's what it is. It's a logical language model, and it doesn't have any soul. So all it does is it looks at the different arguments and it says, well, which one is the most logical, right? Which one, giving all the different premises and all the strengths and weaknesses of all these different sides, is most logical. And it came up with the analysis that, the position that I hold, the visible church, is the most logical position. Now, I know a lot of you guys are going to take that with a grain of salt, because you'll say, well, who cares what AI says? Like, I believe what I believe and I have my reasons. Fine. I'm not trying to argue against your experiential reasons, but I'm just saying, for me, like, I'm very logical, very methodical, I like to look at the facts and see what are the probabilities and the chances of anything being more right than the other things. So yeah, I mean, but this wasn't the deciding factor of me being in the conciliar church. The deciding factor of me being in the conciliar church actually are my own experiential my own experiences. So, but I just people like this guy in the chat here, the C Lens 4s or whatever, C Lens 4s are acting like I haven't done any analysis. No, I've suffered over this. I've done so much analysis on it. Now, am I going to make videos on this? I don't plan to. Like, I just showed you some private analysis I did there, like using AI again. But like, I've used AI. I've done a lot of my own research, but like, I like the thing I just showed you there because it puts it all in one place, right? It just, like, everything that the AI analysis that I just showed you put back is stuff I already know, but it basically organized everything. Here's the strengths and weaknesses of each position, and there are strengths and weaknesses. The AI says the most probable of all the positions is the conciliar position. The hermeneutic of continuity position, is painful as it can be sometimes, and God knows it can be painful. And that's been my experience too. So that's all I can say is I've done my homework. I've done the analysis. I just don't think the SSPX or the sedevacantist positions are true. I don't. Sorry. Feel free to get angry and spread your hate, but I don't think that's going to help you. I mean, when you get angry and get triggered and just blah, 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 that doesn't make your side look right. It makes your side look wrong, because people will look at that and say, well, this guy's angry and triggered and can't keep himself together, so that must not be where the church is, because I don't see where there's charity there, right? I'm just saying. Thistle Downs 2982, watching from Cincinnati. Well, Mason, great channel. Thanks for going live. Wonder if we ran into each other ever, because I used to live in about a decade ago. I used to live in Mason, so yeah, when I was around 30ish, so for a couple years or so. C Lens 4s, I'm not making ad hominems. I answered your questions. You don't like my answer. You don't like the answer that I don't think the SSPX is. I don't think there's good I don't agree. I think the arguments for the SSPX are bad. I don't know what else to tell you. Doug Haugen. Oh, hey, Justin. Hey, Doug. You just saw the email I shared. I sent you, right? Dan Durregel, Viva Cristo Rey, thank you so much for what you do, dear brother. Much love to you, your family, and everyone in the chat from your humble abode in Guadalupe, Nuevo Leon, Mexico. Oh, hey, thank you for coming on. Boomer Linda saying Len Forger get out of hand. Yeah, I mean, he's just hanging himself with his own rope. He's if he's doing anything, he's arguing for a reason why not to be SSPX right now, because he's making himself look bad. He's making himself look like a Looney Tune. Like, he asked me an honest question. I gave an honest answer. He didn't like the answer, and now he's going crazy. Like, I answered multiple questions before I just decided, look, dude, I'm not answering any more questions. It just went from him wanting to know my position to interrogating me once I gave him the wrong answer. And everybody can see that now. Mr. Clear Eyes, I love your iconography in the background. We love it in our Orthodox church. Well, cool. It's actually Catholic, though. It's a Catholic artist that makes all this stuff. But yeah, I do like the Orthodox iconography, if I can speak. Of course, you all know I struggle pronouncing things. Linda says, from my observation, the TML, the JQ is split, not talked of in the Novus Ordo. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, it is funny. So here's the thing. Here's the truth of the matter. If you go to your average Novus Ordo, they're not going to be talking about the JQ at all, really. I mean, there's going to be some people there. Like, I know quite a few people that go to the Novus Ordo that know about the Jewish question. So it's actually not like it's nobody. I know quite a few priests who celebrate the Novus Ordo that believe everything I'm saying on this channel. So they're orthodox in their faith, especially regarding the Jewish question. But yeah, you don't hear people talking about it like after Mass or whatever at Novus Ordo parishes, or at least none that I've ever went to. If people even hang out at all, most people at Novus Ordo parishes just go right out. They don't hang out. Usually it's in the Latin Mass parishes where people want to hang out and have community time afterwards or whatever. And yeah, in Latin Mass parishes, when people have community time, there's people that are just like we are, talk about the Jewish question, and there's people that like they don't have anything to do with it. But the people that don't want to have anything to do with it are doing disservice to themselves, because this is what's happening in our world, like it or not, right? You can pretend like it's not happening, but yeah. Mayamo says, Len Forge, if there's a papal order issued against the leadership of the SSPX, why not just obey it so that the leaders promptly fall back into obedience and right leadership or right relationship? Yeah, I don't know. Again, nothing against the SSPX. It's just I don't understand. I'm not even Sedevacantists, but I understand the Sedevacantists position makes more sense to me than the SSPX, because the Sedevacantist position is more like those popes since 1958 are not actually popes. They just look like the popes, but they're not actually popes. So that's why we don't obey them. Well, the SSPX, it's like that's not their position. The SSPX is like every pope since 1958 is a legitimate pope, but we're just not going to obey them when it comes to them trying to shut us down, right? And it's like, well, it's just a tougher position to defend, because a big part about being Catholic is your filial obedience to the Holy Father, to the Pope. So if you say, hey, he's the Pope, but he's trying to shut our society down, so we're going to disobey him because there's a crisis in the church, which is what the SSPX argue. That's not a straw man. That's exactly what they argue. They say, yeah, we acknowledge he's the Holy Father, but he's trying to shut down our society, and there's a crisis in the church, and the society is needed because of this crisis. So we have to disobey him. I mean, that's their argument. I'm not straw manning. That's what they say. And I just don't think, I don't see how it's, to me, it's non sequitur. My position sucks more for us. I get it, because my position is like, no, you just have to obey the Holy Father and do what he says. And I get it that sucks for people like us more, but I truly believe that the path to sanctity is by embracing suffering and embracing the cross, right? That's what our Lord did. And I don't see how disobeying the Pope is legitimate, even if there is a crisis in the church, and I don't even deny there is, right? Thank you for all you do. Mark Serrano says, thank you for all you do. You're welcome. I don't know. Is there a way to kick this? Oh, put user in timeout. Oh, okay. I've been banned Sealand 4, so he's no longer in the comment. So sorry. I should have been doing that earlier, but sorry everybody. I finally banned him. He's just going crazy. He's just spamming the whole comment section. Okay. Yeah, Shadow Star says LLM is large language model. Yes, that's what it is. My son is an IT engineer. So am I. But I don't always remember what the acronym stand for. Yeah. It's part of my, in case you can't tell, again, what I said at the beginning of the episode here, I am sorely sleep deprived. I recently got a sleep apnea test done, and I wake up 70 times an hour. So that's why a lot of times, I think that's why a lot of times when I'm talking, I'll take pauses and just kind of like sit there for a second and to think of what I'm trying to say. And like, even in my videos, I've had to like cut out the pauses and stuff like that and mispronounce things and misremember things because of the fact that I'm so sleep deprived. So once I get the CPAP machine, I might be a new podcaster. I might, all this, help my presentation, which you guys have probably, maybe you find somewhat endearing because it's real. Because I'm so sleep deprived and I'm like all the time mispronouncing things. That might go away. I might actually be a lot more sharper and presentable in my speech then. But yeah, LLM is large language model. It's I'm in software development. I'm actually, what I do for a living is like automation and AI and stuff like that. So I'm like neck deep in this stuff. Like I know all about AI. I use it every day. Mayamo says, if the Holy Spirit is the one who protects St. Peter from blinding us to moral error, the Vatican II is something we get to accept and return to the Holy Spirit whenever we are confused. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how I see it too. It's like Vatican II. I'm just like, and I acknowledge, even in my videos on Nostra Aetate, I acknowledge that there were bad actors behind Vatican II, right? Like Gregory Baum is like the worst. But, just because there's bad actors, it's like, for whatever reason, Paul VI signed off on it. And I believe he was the Pope at the time. And I believe the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost, whatever you want to call the third person of the Holy Trinity, he was there, and I believe he's still in the Novus Ordo Church still. So, I don't know. I truly believe suffering with the visible church is the way to go. Static Witness says, I picked up a Penguin Classics Bible, which is an authorized version. I don't know what that is. Do you read the KJV or DR and exclusively? So the KJV, the King James Bible, is a Protestant Bible. Catholics should not read that at all. Do not read a Protestant Bible. If you have a King James Bible, get rid of it. And the past discipline of the church would actually have you burn it, because you don't have to burn it, and that's no longer the discipline. But just get rid of it, throw it away. DR is Douay-Rheims. Yes, the Douay-Rheims is the one I use in all my videos. A little archaic in the speech. Sometimes I'll use newer versions that if they're more clearer, but I like the Douay-Rheims because it's basically like the King James version for us Catholics. I mean, it was written in the late 16th and early 17th centuries. I mean, it's actually predates. The Protestants all the time will say the King James Bible is like the earliest English translation that's out there. It's not. The Douay-Rheims predates it by decades, and a lot of what the King James Bible, like a lot of it is verbatim the same as the Douay-Rheims. So yeah, Douay-Rheims. But in my exclusive, your second question, in my exclusive, no. I mean, I think modern translations are fine, but sometimes when it comes to what we talk about, the Jewish question, they miss the mark because it's the translators want to be politically correct. So yeah, it's just better to use the Douay-Rheims, the older version, unless a newer version says something in a more clear way. So in other words, what do you think of the translations? Yeah. Static Witness 28, you said Donald Sanborn with a question mark. I don't know what your question is. Donald Sanborn with a question mark. He's like basically the guy that pushes the sede privationist, right? He's the main one, right? Donald Bishop Sanborn, to my knowledge, he's the main one, the sede privationist. I don't really know much about him other than that. I know that's what I know. Pete B, how much J infiltration had played on the church abandoning tradition position on creationism and accepting Darwinism and evolution? There's no way to really measure that, how much the Jewish infiltration has played. I mean, it's been a factor, but I don't think it can be quantified, if that's what you're asking. Creationism and accepting Darwinism and evolution, or accepting Darwinism and evolution, I think that was really, it's the modernists in the church that have done that. And are some of those modernists in the church that have pushed Darwinism and evolution, or some of them crypto-Jews? Yes. Some of them are also Gentiles that have been influenced by communism, and some of them are Freemasons, right? So it's the enemies inside the church aren't it's not like one monolithic group, right? The modernists are composed of there's crypto-Jews, there's Freemasons, there's just flat out heretics, people that are just that they're not crypto-Jews or Freemasons, but they're just heretics, right? Then there's all the homos, right? Like we see today, that's a really big group today, is all the homos. So there's different disparate groups that have infiltrated the church, but they all pretty much work together. They're all pretty much anti-Catholic when it comes down to it, right? They're against tradition. They're against what the church has always taught. That's why Pope St. Pius X said modernism is the synthesis of all heresies, because it's not just the synthesis of all heresies, it's the synthesis of all the people that hate the Catholic Church kind of coming into the church and infiltrating it and trying to destroy it from within. So it's a synthesis there. So yeah, are crypto-Jews a part of it? Yes. But so are Freemasons and queers and sodomites and just crazy leftist liberals and heretics and all kinds of groups, right? So yeah. Dan Derrigo says, Justin, what is your favorite Catholic book? Well, I guess I'd have to say first and foremost is the Bible. Um, you know, secondly, I would say, yeah, the Imitation of Christ is good. What is it? The Spiritual Combat is good. Philothea or the Introduction to Devout Life by Saint Francis de Sales is really good. I think these are good devotional books for people to get started with, right? So hopefully Dan Derrigal says, let's include Justin in our Holy Rosary prayers for him to get better sleep. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Hopefully I get my CPAP soon, because I just went to my second sleep study this past week, and like it was the no CPAP, and I had a decent, I usually don't sleep very well when I'm outside of my house, but I had a decent sleep. But I was still tired the next day. I'm just chronically tired. That's what I'm saying. That's what I've been saying though. Like I have these chronic ailments, and somehow I still have the grace to do what I'm doing. So when somebody, if a Sedevacantists or SSPX person says that I can't get any graces with these sacraments that are celebrated by people in the new orders or whatever, I have to push back, because I just me doing what I'm doing is proof of otherwise, right? And I'm not even pushing back on the fact that there's a crisis in the church and all that. Yeah, of course there's a crisis in the church. Of course there are problematic things that were written in Vatican II, and of course the fruits of Vatican II, and all these heretics that say, and the spirit of Vatican II, these are all rotten, right? There's a crisis in the church, and it would just be gaslighting people to say otherwise. But it just, because I agree with all that, and I agree with all the problems that traditionalists rightly put out there, right? Promulgate. Just because I agree with the problems doesn't mean I agree with the solutions, right? You can agree with the problems and not agree on the solutions, right? So we all agree on the problems, right? Me and the people that go to the SSPX and the Sedevacantists, we all agree on the problems. Where we disagree is on the solutions. And I try to be tolerant of these other people with these different solutions than I do, that go to the SSPX or the Sedevacantists chapels and stuff and say, hey, I don't agree with you on the solution, but I tolerate you. I still love you. I still see you as a brother in Christ, even though I don't think the solution is correct. But yeah, you just saw what happened in the chat tonight. Like I answered the guy's questions, and then he went crazy on me. Like, so I had to mute him. Just got this Ignatius Catholic Study Bible, says Silent Bob. Yeah, I don't know anything about that too. I would say this. If it's a modern study Bible, I mean, I would be skeptical. I mean, for me, here, just let me show you my website. If you want to get a study Bible, get the Haydock Commentary or Lapide or St. Thomas, the Catena Aurea. Get the Haydock Bible, because the Lapide and the St. Thomas Catena Aurea, they're not, like, the Lapide is not fully translated in English, and the St. Thomas Aquinas' Catena Aurea is only on the Gospels. But here, if you want to get a good quote-unquote study Bible, it's not really a study Bible, but it's got like the footnotes. Get this Haydock Bible. It's the Douay-Rheims Bible, but it's got all the commentary by Haydock, and I use that all the time in my videos. I don't know how many people notice that, but and you can, there's of course the online version, like right here. You can see the Old Testament, New Testament. Let's look at Apocalypse 2:9. What do they say? Apocalypse 2:9. Jesus, but are not having refused their own true Messiah, Jesus Christ. Oh no, thou art blasphemed by those false teachers who call themselves Jews and Israelites and the chosen people of God, waiting for the coming of the Messiah, but are not to be looked upon as such, having refused their own true Messiah, Jesus Christ. They are the synagogue of Satan, the greatest enemies of the true faith. Right? So, like here, see, when you read stuff like this, they don't say, the modernists will say things like for Revelation or Apocalypse 2:9 or 3:9, they'll say, oh, that only meant the certain Jews for the certain time back for the Church of Smyrna. The traditionalist commentaries are not like that at all. They just say the Jews and Israelites who are the synagogue of Satan because they reject Jesus Christ, like you read right there, right? So this is why I would think for what we are this is a better commentary. Sorry, I just again sleep deprived, lost my train of thought. But yeah, I would recommend the Haydock commentary for those that want a good study Bible. Bruce Johnson 4462. I seem to be struggling with the gay new synodal church of ambiguity. Strange times. I think people that are in the visible church, like myself, even though I'm not a Sedevacantists or an SSPX, I struggle with it too. I mean, you have all these bad bishops and popes, and it's like, what the heck is going on? But I came into the church over 8 years ago when Pope Francis was a pope, so I knew there was a crisis church coming in. And like I said, when I came into the church, I was going to a Latin mass, so I've been indoctrinated into I was indoctrinated into the traditionalist movement when I came into the church. I again lost my train of thought. Yeah, I knew there was a lot of gayness and all this gayness and synodality and all this heresy in the church, even in the hierarchy, and that never was a problem. That's never been a problem for me. I mean, I don't. For me, it's like it's easy. Like I maybe it's because I read a lot of church history and stuff too. But I look at, we've had bad popes before, and we've even had some that have, that have publicly said heretical things, like Pope John the 22nd, or John the John the 22nd said back in the Middle Ages he was denying the beatific vision, which was heresy, right? Same with Pope Liberius, during the Arian crisis, he signed off on a document saying that basically was approving semi-Arianism, and Saint Athanasius just was not, just criticized them harshly for it, as he should have, right? And similarly, like Pope Vigilius and Honorius. I mean, there's been popes that have said and done awful things, and even committed bad theological errors, and so it's like this isn't, to me, and when I see what's happening, it's not like it's new, but it's just, it's so much, it's all the time, right? And I think that gets people down, like really people get hyper focused on it, like all these errors and these bad actors in the Vatican and stuff, and the bad bishops that are doing the wrong thing all the time, and that it's scandalous, and it drives people away from the church, which is sad. But it just, not me. I'm just, for me, I feel like I get empowered more to spread the truth of the gospel, right? I'm just like, well, these are the weeds that are in the field. Our Lord said there's going to be weeds and wheat, so here's the weeds, right? St. John Chrysostom said that the road to hell is paved with the skulls of, or paved with the bones of priests, and the lamps that are lighting the way are made with the skulls of bishops, right? So I mean, that's It's always been the case, right? So yeah, hopefully that helped you. Oh, see, Len Forrest is back. I guess my I didn't ban him. I just put him to, I guess what it was muted him. I guess it was temporarily. Dude, I appreciate you. God bless. Well, God bless you too. I appreciate that. Thank you for that, C. Len Forrest. Ben Chambers, thoughts on SSPX? Well, Ben, you must have come late because I have been given my thoughts on SSPX for like an hour or so. I would say rewind, start from the beginning, and you'll get your answer. C. Lenz beat you to the punch. He asked me about the SSPX before you got on here. And C. Lenz is now saying, I hope you one day more charitably approach the argument. If you can tell me what I said was if you can just say what I said that was uncharitable, let me know. I will repent. I will say something charitable. C. Len Forrest. I don't know how to be more charitable. You asked me what my thoughts were on the SSPX, and I told you, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I'm just indifferent. I don't have a dog in the fight. Like I said, I was brought into the church under tradition, in a diocesan, traditional Latin Mass parish for the past 8 years, right? And so I very much know about traditionalism. I very much know about what the SSPX, SSPV, Sedevacantist, Sedepravationists, what all these camps believe in, because trads, they talk about it all the time. They don't stop talking. One of my problems with the traditionalist movement is they don't stop talking about them. They just make this the thing to talk about all the time, right? And I don't know how to say that more charitably, other than saying that they make this the topic they want to talk about. Like you come to my Ask Me Anything about the Catholic position, about the Catholic perspective on the Jewish question. Instead of asking me a question about the Catholic perspective on the Jewish question, you ask me about the SSPX, which has nothing to do with the Catholic position on the Jewish question. So you're doing exactly what I'm saying. You want to make people in the traditionalist movement want to make everything about whatever the movement or the camp they're in is about. This podcast has nothing to do with the SSPX. Nothing. I don't want it to have anything to do with the SSPX, my friend. And I'm not trying to be uncharitable to you. I don't hate you. I don't think you're a bad person or anything. I think you're just another one of those SSPX people that do what all the online SSPX people do, and that is to try to take any conversation and derail it and make it about the SSPX when it has nothing to do with it. But I gave you my thoughts on the SSPX. I think many people in the SSP and Ben Chambers, here you go. Many of the people of the SSPX are good-willed. Many of them just want tradition. They just want a Latin Mass, right? But they believe in the Holy Father. Pope Leo XIV is the Pope of the Catholic Church, and they asked for his blessings for the bishops that consecrated. He denied it. He not only did he deny it, he denied them meeting with him, and then he said, if you consecrate these bishops, you will be excommunicated. The SSPX head, I don't remember his name, consecrated the bishops. They were excommunicated. The SSPX got excommunicated by the Pope that they claim is their legitimate Holy Father. That's what happened, right? Now, the SSPX will say that they had to consecrate the bishops because there's a crisis in the church. I'm not going to argue that there's not a crisis in the church. There is a crisis in the church. Of course there is. I'm not going to argue that there's no problems with the Vatican II, the implementation, and even how the Novus Ordo is practiced many times. There are tons of problems. Not arguing at all. What I'm saying is, I understand the solution, and I just don't agree with it. I just don't see how, and I told you why. The reason I don't agree, it's non sequitur in my brain, is because I don't see how you can say X person is the Holy Father, but I'm going to disobey him on this thing because I think it's so important that he has to be disobeyed on it, which is, in this case, the consecrations. That is the position you hold. If I'm straw manning it, tell me how. I'm not. That is the position you hold, and that's why. And I don't see how it's a logical position, and I don't see how I'm being uncharitable. I'm just explaining why I don't hold this position, right? And I don't want to have an argument with you or a debate with you because I don't care that much, right? I don't care. I'm not an SSPX. It's your thing, man. It's not mine. Okay. Mary says sleep apnea equals vitamin D deficiency. I wish that was the case, but unfortunately, I take vitamin D pills every day, and I have been taking them for a while because that was one of the things people said to me a while back. Oh, you have a vitamin D deficiency. Well, take vitamin D pills, eat foods with vitamin D, get sunlight. That still doesn't help. I wish it did, though. But no, it looks like I'm going to need to try this sleep apnea machine. Thank you, Linda. Linda says, Sealand Fours, you have not been charitable at all, and Justin has been very charitable towards you. Yeah, if I said something mean, like the only thing I said that I could, maybe you could say is uncharitable is like I said, like you're reacting in an unreasonable way. You're blowing up my chat with all this stuff about, you're interrogating me with a bunch of questions, like acting as if I've not done my homework and I just don't know. And if I only did my homework and stuff, that I would know that the SSPX position is right. But that's not true. I've shown that I've done my homework, and I still have come to the conclusion that I don't agree with the SSPX, right? I'm sorry. Okay, so what do you think the People versus Power says? What do you think of the 1965 official Catholic Church saying Nostra Aetate? Well, you sounds like you're new to my channel. I've actually made multiple videos on Nostra Aetate. See, if you look at this one, here's this one right here on Nostra Aetate. I made this video. I've got a few more videos right here too. If you look, Vatican II, 2 words everyone ignores in Vatican II, and here's what is it? Yeah, there's another one I have too. It's not coming up, but anyways, yeah, I have a few videos on Nostra Aetate. I also have, as I was showing people before, I have this 60-page report, the 60-page theological academic thesis on Nostra Aetate. So yeah, I've done a lot of research on Nostra Aetate. So the People versus Power, what do I think about it? Well, I think it's poorly written. I think it's weaponized ambiguity for the most part. Like, it was written by, we know, 3 crypto Jews: Gregory Baum, Bruno Hussar, and what's the third one? It doesn't matter. And like, it was originally, it's like the American Jewish Committee, B'nai B'rith, or the ADL, Anti-Defamation League. They were involved. Like, it was basically written to appease the Jews because of the event that happened 80 years ago that we're not going to name. But it says, you said basically the Jews didn't kill Jesus. Actually, it does not say that. And this is the problem with people on Nostra Aetate, is people they don't read it, so they just parrot what they think Nostra Aetate says. Nostra Aetate is not that long. I just wish people would just read it and not parrot things that are just not true. Because there are problems with it, but it doesn't help to name things that are actually not problematic. So here, let me just share. It starts here on, this is Nostra Aetate. The stuff on the Jews is just section 4. So it's really this. This is it. This is it right here. And so as far as the Jews killing Christ, it actually says that the Jews did kill Christ. See, true, the Jewish authorities and those that followed their lead pressed for the death of Christ. True, the Jewish authorities and those who followed their lead pressed for the death of Christ. True, the Jewish authorities and those who followed their lead pressed for the death of Christ. Does it sound like it's saying that the Jews didn't kill Christ? To me, it sounds like the Jews did kill Christ, right? And saying it's acknowledging that. Thank God. Thank God the Holy Ghost has them acknowledge that. Now, it does have this qualifier then afterwards that says, still what happened in his passion cannot be charged against all Jews without distinction then alive, nor against the Jews of today. But that's still theologically correct. Now, the problem is with this sentence is the way it's worded is it's like weaponized ambiguity because it says, because his passion cannot be charged against all Jews without distinction, but it doesn't name what that distinction is, right? So it leaves the distinction open. So people just commonly translated it, and this is even popes have, they commonly interpret it as, it was just that group of Jews back in the first century, it was just a small group of Jews that killed Christ. But no, it was the majority. If you think about this contextually, back during the Passion, this was held during the feast of Passover, and during the feast of Passover in the first century, all the Jews in the Roman Empire that could walk were in Jerusalem, right? Because they would walk to make it to celebrate Passover, because that's what they did back in the ancient times. If you didn't live in Jerusalem, well, you would walk to Jerusalem for Passover, because all the families of all the Jews had to make their sacrifices during Passover at the temple. And the temple's in Jerusalem, right? So this is all the Jews that could possibly be there. So it's not every single Jew, but it's most of the Jews of the world, right? Or in Jerusalem during this time, the sacrifice for the feast of Passover. So when the crowd says, let his blood be upon, shouts and says, crucify him, let his blood be upon us. It's not all the Jews, right? And of course, there's exceptions like our Virgin, the Blessed Mother, the Virgin Mary, the 11 apostles, obviously not Judas, but the other 11 apostles, the women like St. Mary Magdalene and St. John's mother and others, and the disciples of Jesus, right, which there were hundreds of at this time. They didn't want Christ to die, but all the other Jews, they did. So that's the problem here is the ambiguity. Not that it's saying anything that's actually goes against the faith, but it's just ambiguous, and that ambiguity is weaponized and opens up the door to incorrect theology. Yes, you're right. Rabbi Abraham Heschel worked with the crypto Jews. Yeah. I mean, like I said, watch my video. I go through all that stuff. So, okay. See, Sealand 4s. Sealand 4s, I feel like I gave you the critical, as much critical engagement as I'm going to give you. I don't really care about what happens in SSPX world, and to come into my stream and turn it into an SSPX stream is just, it's crazy. That is crazy, because this says my apostolate has nothing to do with the SSPX. It's all about the Jewish question from a Catholic perspective. How's the SSPX relevant? So yeah, I mean, and the fact that you're getting triggered and just post after post, you were interrogating me earlier. Yeah, I mean, you're saying you're passionate and vocal. Yeah, you're passionate and vocal, but you're also acting angry and crazy, because my podcast says it's irrelevant. Okay, the Doomslayer. Got to save up for a Haydock Bible. I do have the Ignatius one. It's good. Scott Hahn does good work, but it does sometimes downplay certain things with the Jews. Yeah, maybe that's just me reading it into it. Well, yeah, that's my, that would be my problem with these modern Bibles, study Bibles. Boomer, Linda Hernandez says, learn to accept people where people are. Yeah, exactly. Especially if people have acknowledged the same problems you're acknowledging and have done the research that you're asking them to do and have come to different conclusions you are. I mean, that's really what's happening here with me and Sealand Fours. I mean, he's acting as if I am not acknowledging the problem, but I am. I'm acknowledging the crisis in the church and all the problems. He's acting as if I haven't done my research, but I have. I've even shown a lot of the research I've done, and then he's interrogating me and acting like as I've not done any of this, which is prideful. That, I mean, coming at somebody like that and acting as if they don't know what's going on, or if they haven't even researched things. That comes from pride, my friend. That is not humble. That is the opposite of humility. So he comes to me like this, and then I correct him, and then he says I'm uncharitable because I come to a different conclusion as him. I mean, it's crazy, right? Vincent, what's up, bro? How's it been? It's been sleepy. That's how I've been. What's your opinion of political actors promoting the SSPX like Raw Nationalist, Bronze Age Pervert, and Captive Dreamer? I have no idea who any of those are. Sorry, Vincent. I have no idea. See, here's the thing. People probably think because I'm a Catholic, I make these videos, I'm a content creator, that I watch all the same people that you probably watch. I mean, no, I don't. Honestly, most of the time when I'm not creating the content, I'm not watching other Catholic content creators. Like, I don't watch them at all. I watch other stuff. I don't watch Catholic content creators. There are exceptions. Like, I'll watch Dr. Deep State because that's my friend, Dr. Doug Haugen. He's done a lot for me. Maybe like the new guy, Alex Poe. He's had me on the show. I'll watch some of his. I don't watch a lot of Catholic. I don't watch a lot of Catholic YouTube content creators or podcasters. I don't listen to them a lot. Sorry. Yeah. So if they said something, I probably don't know what they said. Now people will say, well, if you don't watch these videos or listen to these podcasts, how do you know all this stuff? Well, I will direct you to this again, all my resources. Yeah, I mean, this is where I get my stuff from. I don't get my stuff from, Catholic podcasters or video content creators or anything. I get my stuff from the Bible and the church fathers and doctors and traditional theologians and the magisterium and stuff like that. Like, I mean, that's why those are the sources you always see in my videos, because that's what I read. That's what I research with. I don't really, like, sometimes when you see me do a response video, 90-something% of the time, it's not because I sought out that person and I watched their video, but it's because somebody else emailed me or texted me that video and said, Catholic State, you should look at this and do a response video. And that's like the only time I generally watch those videos. But other than that, I try to stay away from a lot of people. So, Vincent, what's your opinion of political actors promoting the SSPX? I mean, I don't really watch any of them, so I don't know. But again, like, I don't have a beef with the SSPX either. Like, I'm not anti-SSPX. I just, like I said to Sealand Fours earlier, I just don't care. I just really don't care about the SSPX. It's just not something that I really care about. I'm sorry. I mean, I love you guys, but I'm not SSPX, and I'm sorry, I don't care. I know your position. I don't agree. I don't care. I don't know what else to say. The Doomsday Slayer says, the Doomslayer says, I take the good with the bad with the Ignatius Study Bible. I do have the Haydock, but in PDF format, poorly formatted. Okay, yeah, I like the Haydock. I will say, if you on your phone, here, there's an app called iPieta. So like a lowercase I, then Pieta, Pieta, and it's got like it's got the Dewey Reams Bible on it. And it's a free app, or it's either free or like 99 cents or something, but either way, basically free. But it's like it's got the Dewey Reams Bible. It's got it does got the Haydock commentary on it. And it's got like a bunch of traditional prayers and stuff. So it's I would recommend that too. Sealand Fours, to be fair, no, nowhere on the stream does it say AMA about only the Jewish question. It doesn't. I thought my AMA. Let me look at my AMA. Again, my AMA says July AMA stream. Okay, so Sealand Fours, unfortunately, you are wrong. See right here in the description, it says, ask me anything about the Jewish question from a Catholic perspective. So, sorry, not sorry, but you're wrong about that too. Like, again, I'm not trying to even be argumentative, but it's like, I don't understand what the point is you're trying to make. I mean, I've engaged with what I think you're asking me my thoughts about the SSPX and where I go. I told you my thoughts on the SSPX. I told you that I don't attend the SSPX, and I don't know what else you want me to say. And that's why a lot of people don't like you guys. And again, if this is what you mean by uncharitable, is that I've said this earlier, that why a lot of people don't like people like you. This is why. It's because you come in, you try to turn everything about the SSPX, and then if somebody actually engages you like I am and says, well, here's my thoughts, I don't really care that much, it's not what you wanted to hear. And then you're just like, you just don't stop. You don't just say, okay, well, he answered the question, I guess he doesn't care, so I guess conversation thread over when it comes to the SSPX. No, it's like you keep going, and then other people are just like, why are you doing that? Like, it's bizarre. Yeah, it's deeply relevant in the news right now. Well, who cares? It's not what I'm about. You say Sealand Forest, you said, in my opinion, it's related to the JQ. Well, why don't you talk about that then? Why don't you talk about why it's related to talk about the JQ, because that's what this channel is about. Like, I don't care about the SSPX though. Live well apps. It's all about the Frankists. The church has failed in properly addressing it since 1492. Well, the Frankists came way after 1492. 1492 was the Alhambra decree, which was in Spain, under King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, the Catholic monarchs. The Frankists were in what is it? Oh gosh, not P. It's not Portugal. Oh gosh, Germany, and then Poland. The Frankists were in Poland like centuries after the Alhambra decree. I'm actually going to do a video, I think this week, on the Frankist movement, and I'm not going to do I'll do Zabbatai Zevi probably in his own video too, because Jacob Frank, as some people call him, or Jacob Frank, which is I think the correct pronunciation of his name. He was inspired by Zabbatai Zevi, who essentially created his own messianic movement in the modern day Turkey. So I'm going to do videos on them. And I think I will do a video on the Alhambra decree and stuff like that too. Yeah, I mean, the Frankists did Yeah, Vincent. Yeah, the Frankists did infiltrate the church in Poland. I mean, that was how he ended his, I don't know, messianic movement, was like to have all the Frankists, to have his whole, all his Jewish cult convert into Catholicism, to become Catholics, to infiltrate the church, right? Whereas Zabbatai Zevi, they all converted to Islam, so they became crypto Mohammedans, I guess you can call them, right? Okay, is there anything? Sealand fours, man. You know, I'm just going to ban you forever. Sorry, but you're just out of line. You just won't stop. I mean, people like this, you just do it do it to yourself, man. What's your favorite Pop-Tart twin? I don't even know what that is. I know back in the day, I used to, like, when I was a kid, I used to like eat strawberry Pop-Tarts. I don't know. I haven't had Pop-Tart in decades. Dark Apostle. Are there still Jews that are as close as Second Temple Jews could be? Like now Kalaba, non-rabbinic, just the Torah. Oh, non-Kabbalah, non-rabbinic, just Torah. Yeah, the Karaite Jews are the Karaites. They're not rabbinic. They only focus on the Torah. Well, I guess you could say the same thing about the what are they? Yes, the Karaite Jews, and then you've got the Samaritans too. But Samaritans aren't Jewish, but they were the kind of the descendants of the northern tribes, right? So they're all about the Torah too, but they have Samaritism is different than Judaism, but yeah, but still, I mean, they all reject Jesus Christ, so they're all false religions. Layman Pundit, does the Douay-Rheims retain Christological references and prophecies compared to the GKV? What? Of course, the Douay-Rheims retains Christological references and prophecies. It's a Bible. Yeah, the King James version is a Protestant Bible. I mean, if you're a Catholic, it's a mortal sin to you haven't used a Bible. Maybe you didn't know it was a mortal sin, but now you do. So get rid of your King James version Bible. And the Douay-Rheims is traditional English. The Douay-Rheims predates the King James version by a couple decades. The New Testament does by I think a couple decades, and the Old Testament is even like decades before that. But yeah, the King James, the Douay-Rheims is basically like the King James version for Catholics. So yeah, it contains all the Christological references and prophecies. And the problem is with the King James version, like I just said in my video yesterday with Martin Luther, is the King James version uses the Masoretic texts of the Old Testament. So yeah, some of the stuff it has in there is theologically wrong. Like I don't remember what off the top of my head, but yeah, just use the Douay-Rheims. If you like the King James version, you'll love the Douay-Rheims. Awesome. I appreciate all the work you've done. Your videos are top-notch. Thank you. You're welcome, Awesome. Vincent, you mess with Celtic FC or Hibernian. I have no idea who they are, but yeah, thank you though. Ben Chambers, 1305. I'm a recent convert, and I really appreciate your work. Well, thank you, and God bless, and welcome to the church. I'm a convert myself. Persona Pariah, thoughts on secular Judaism and the rejection of God while saying they are God's chosen? Well, yeah, what are the odds that all the atheists are not criticizing well, my thoughts on secular Judaism are the same as my thoughts on Judaism, period. They're the synagogue of Satan. Whether or not they believe in their religion or not, the fact that they reject Christ makes them the synagogue of Satan. what are the odds that atheists not criticizing Jews, the Talmud, or Israel? Yeah, I mean, everybody's afraid to be an anti-Semite, right? Awesome. I'm a big fan of Stone Choir, but I'm not a Catholic in Catacomb Synod. Don't know what Stone Choir is, but yeah, hopefully keep watching my videos and consider becoming Catholic, man. Did Jesus? Pete B says, did Jesus celebrate what's known as Hanukkah today? No, I mean, I looked into it and like the holidays were different. Yeah, the Hanukkah is a modern holiday. Is a post-Christian holiday. So they did have I think what was it? Feast of the there's the Feast of the Tabernacles. That's Sukkot. I forget what. I'm looking it up now. What was before Hanukkah? Because there was a I'm looking it up. Yeah, I think it was the Festival of Lights. Yeah, Festival of Lamps or whatever. Yeah, the Festival of Lamps. They used to have it, and ironically, and the Festival of Lamps, or what now is Hanukkah, is celebrated because of the Maccabean revolt that overthrew Antiochus Epiphanes, and the stupid Jews took the books of Maccabees out of their Bible, out of the Masoretic canon, and so the Protestants don't have it in their Bible anymore either, because the stupid Jews took it out of their Bible. But then they still celebrate Hanukkah, which is a celebration of the Maccabean revolt over Antiochus Epiphanes. It doesn't even make sense to me why they even celebrate Hanukkah if they don't even have the two books of Maccabees in their canon anymore. But anyways, yeah, there was a Festival of Lamps with the traditional menorahs back in the day, but that stopped once the Second Temple was destroyed, and now there's a new Hanukkah now. So did Jesus celebrate a festival that was a festival for the celebrating the Maccabean revolt, successfully driving out Antiochus Epiphanes? Yes, he did. Did he celebrate Hanukkah as it's celebrated today? No, he didn't, because that was created by rabbinical Jews. P.O. says, do you agree that modern Bibles heavily favor the Masoretic texts over the Septuagint when there is a space for aggregation or when they diverge? Yeah, probably. I even think, and I think that's the problem with the Catholic Bibles, is a lot of them, because of this Judaizing, it's like a mind virus that's affected a lot of, since the thing that happened 80 years ago, particularly, the mind virus has affected people, and they don't want to translate anything that could be offensive to the Jews. So really, any translation that's been within the past 80 years, I would be a little bit hesitant to support. But something like the Douay-Rheims version, I mean, it's been around since the Old Testament of the Douay-Rheims was written in the late 16th century, and the New Testament was written in early 17th century. But there has been revisions. The revision we tend to use these days is a Challoner revision, but still, it's a lot older. It's still a couple hundred years old or so. So yeah. Did Pete ask, did Joe Heschmeyer or Wagner ever respond back to you? Joe Heschmeyer's never responded to me at all. Wagner, yeah, he responds to me. He's responded to me on Twitter or X or whatever you call it. Yeah, and he gets he's every time I've got 2 videos where I correct him, and he's like blown up at me both times on Twitter when I posted those videos. So I mean, but and he makes it out like I'm just attacking him out of nowhere. But in both the videos where I've corrected him, the only reason that I corrected him in my videos is because I'm brought up in his. He brings me up in his like videos. Like the first video, somebody made a comment saying, "Well, this is a year or two ago." Someone made a comment saying, "Well, the Catholic state." This is back when I was still on Rumble and I was banned from YouTube. And he's like, "This guy says the Catholic state makes has proven with a lot of the quotes from the church fathers and doctors and magisterium and scripture that the Jews have that the Jews are cursed." And then Wagner in his video, he's like, "Well, I don't know about that," and and then he goes into basically criticizing my position. So of course, yeah, I had to make a response video on that, and then I made a response video, and then he gets all mad. He got all mad. This is like last year or something. He got mad on Twitter and blew up at me. And then a few months ago, like when him and Joe Hishmeyer made that video, like again, my name was brought up in the video. He was like, "Well, most people call Catholic state an anti-Semite. Joe, what do you think?" And it was like, well, if you're going to bring me up and say that, like, yeah, okay, I'm going to respond. And then he got mad at me on Twitter and it's like, you're blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, whatever, man. I mean, like, don't bring me up in my video if you don't want me to respond, I guess, right? Okay. Ceylon Fours is gone, so he's not coming back now. In the case of it's John Colorofi says, in the case of the prophet, St. Jerome's commentaries correct the LXX and give the best interpretation of the Hebrew, or what some call Proto-Masoretic. Yeah. Some of the stuff like was St. Jerome sometimes the St. Jerome did use the Masoretic over the Septuagint in certain places when drafting the Vulgate, because like it was the interpretations were better, right? So like so it's not cut and dry that the Masoretic is always worse than the Septuagint, but it's when you paint with a broad stroke like the Protestants did, and like just, I'm going to use the modern rabbinic Masoretic text instead of what the church Christians have always believed for 1,500 years. That's baloney. Have you read Chippewa Man says, have you read Dr. Marshall's The Crucified Rabbi? No, I haven't. Probably won't. I mean, I'm not really. Okay. If you want me to read it, I would say give me a sales pitch on why I should read it, but I'm not really interested in Taylor Marshall stuff. I don't know. Like I was saying, I was recommending The Plot Against the Church, written in 1962 by a bunch of bishops, talking about how the Jews were infiltrating the church. And from what I understand, and I haven't read Dr. Marshall's book, The Infiltration, but he doesn't talk about the Jewish infiltration at all. So if he's not going to talk about that, I'm not really interested. Real Oliver Twisted, do you have a vid detailing the 3 at least accounts of Jesus whipping the Pharisees? Well, I mean, I have a bunch of videos of him whipping the Pharisees. You're going to have to do some searching, my friend. I don't know what to tell you other than, like, I have a bunch of videos. Let's see. Here's Matthew 23. Christ's final covenant lawsuit. Your house is left desolate, right? In Matthew 23, he's whipping the Pharisees. let's see. I have John 8. You are of your father, the devil. He's whipping the Pharisees there. Like, I have tons of videos on this. To put it charitably, you just need to do some searching, man. Like, like I just look through the videos to find what you want. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say, but I probably do have the video. I probably do have videos that have details, accounts of Jesus whipping the Pharisees. So I currently altar serve for both. BDG says, I currently altar serve for both the Novus Ordo and the Tridentine. I have seen the stark differences between both. However, one thing that comes to mind is that the Novus Ordo was meant to go back to the roots of the first few centuries of Christianity and to take away more medieval additions that weren't necessary. What do you think about this? I mean, there's nothing really wrong, and this might come off as controversial. There's nothing wrong with cutting things out that if you're looking at the mass or look, you can cut things out that are not essential, and there's nothing really wrong with that. Now, before people comment like crazy and tell me how much of a heretic they think I am, let me give you a different example that's not in the Latin Rite. St. John Chrysostom, who is the greatest of the Eastern Fathers and a doctor of the Church, was the Patriarch of Antioch, and a lot of people complained about how long the Byzantine Rite Mass was. So what did he do? He cut it down. He made it shorter. He cut things out of the Mass. Now, maybe there's something out there that says what he did was wrong, but I've never read anything that said that St. John Chrysostom cutting things out of the Byzantine Mass to make it shorter so people would quit complaining and go to Mass more. I've never heard any commentary criticizing him for doing that. So there is a precedent of doing that, of taking away things that some people might consider bloat, or trimming the fat in the Mass. That is something that the rightful patriarch can do, right? So the Pope is he is the legitimate patriarch of the church, the Roman Rite, right? The Latin Rite. So he can cut out stuff from the Mass if he wants, right? He's got the authority to do that because he's the patriarch of the Latin Mass, of the Latin Rite. Now, was it prudent to cut out some of these things that was in the Latin Mass that were medieval additions? That's another question. Like, I made my video the other day talking about like how they changed the offertory and put in the Jewish Barakot prayers in, which I'm not a fan of, right? And I made that clear in the video that I'm not a fan of that, even though I accept that that's not my call to make, right? And I still accept the fact that the Novus Ordo Mass is valid. But there's certain things that were taken out of the Mass that maybe I wouldn't have taken out, but there's other things that it's like, okay, well, for instance, the Confiteor, right? Do we have to, is it necessary for us to pray it like 3 times during Mass? Maybe not. Maybe just praying it once at the beginning of the Mass, that's probably fine, right? So taking out the other 2 times, okay, I can see why they might do that, right? But the other things like changing the offertory, like I said in my video the other day, like changing the offertory to make it sound less sacrificial and more like a Jewish Passover meal. Like I don't know if that's, I don't think that was the best. That was the best way to go about it. But it's not my call to make. That's the Pope. That's what the patriarch of the Latin Rite, the Pope, is supposed to make that decision, right? And really, when it comes to the Mass, the essential part of it is the Eucharist, the consecration of the Eucharist. Everything else is accidental. It's accidental. Everything else could, prudential decisions, you can keep it or leave it. It's only the canon of the Mass, the consecration of the Eucharist. That's really like, okay, you have to have this. You have to do this a certain way, no matter what rite. There's got to be certain form and matter, right? Because that's the sacrament. The Vulgate, the LXX Vulgate seems to clash on genealogy. Vulgate matches with the MSS with Shem's death. Yeah, I know. Like, there's some genealogy differences between the Masoretic texts and the Septuagint and stuff like that. Casimira Ego. When is your debate with Gideon coming out? That came out like 2 months ago. Here. Oh, that's funny. Here, let me see if I can find it. Oh, geez. It's actually like it's not on my channel. It's on Substack. So maybe that's why you didn't see it. Where is... Let me see if I can find it. It's on The Meaning of Catholic. I don't know. I might not be able to find it. Who knows, man? I might not be able to find it for you, but it came out like a month ago. Sorry you missed it. If you look, maybe if you do a Google search, you'll find it. Speaking of the study Bibles, I noticed some Catholics such as Sam Shamoon said the Orthodox study Bible is a good study Bible. Okay, cool. I believe you. I don't really look at study Bibles that much. My way of studying the Bible is reading what the saints say about this stuff. Hey guys, I want to ask you a question regarding Martin Luther. I heard information on him being an honorary Rosicrucian Freemason. Is this true? I have no idea. Okay, there's the people just talking. Let me see if the questions. Derek Hirsch. I thought you made a video recently about the Jewish influence on the Novus Ordo. Yeah, I did 2 days ago. Yeah. And how do you square making the liturgy in the common vernacular of the people for the first time in church history? Well, that's not true. I mean, in the ancient liturgy, the original liturgy, it was spoken in the language of the peoples. That's why even in the Eastern rites, why you still have liturgies spoken in Greek and Aramaic and all these other languages, because those were the languages that people were speaking back then. So that's not actually true that this is the first time that the liturgy's in the common vernacular. But as far as the Latin rite goes, this is the first time like the Latin rite has been spoken in the vernacular over Latin, even though the Mass itself is written in Latin, it's spoken in the vernacular. But I don't know. You're asking me how do I square that? I don't know how there's no squaring that. I mean, it's the Pope. The Pope has the ability to do that. Like, he can change how he's the patriarch of the Latin Rite. He can decide to make it in vernacular. I know Sedevacantist and SSPX people say he can't, but there's no proof that says that's not a thing, like. And again, I've been in the traditionalists. Yeah, I mean, that's not a thing. It's you can change the Pope's the patriarchs can change the masses, just as long as it's got the, it's got to have the essential consecration part. But, other than that, things can be changed. Whether or not prudentially that's a good decision or not, that's a different question. Okay. Alrighty. It looks like this everything's winding down. And it's 10:30 and I need to go to bed anyway. So 2.5 hours. That's crazy. Okay, well, thank you guys for coming on. I love you all, even the SSPXers who probably hate me now. I don't know. Like I thought it was charitable. If I was uncharitable in any way, please leave a comment explaining how I was. Don't just call me uncharitable. Explain how I was uncharitable. For the love of God and the love of my own soul, please explain to me how I was uncharitable so I can correct myself, right? But if the way you're going to explain to me that I'm uncharitable is just by saying, I just don't know, well, then you're just being an arrogant, prideful punk. So I don't want to hear it. But anyways, thank you all, and God bless, my friends.